Hello, hello, guys. It is Thursday. It's the first Thursday of February. I think it is. It's February the 4th, and I'm here in sunny Southern California. My name is Danae Aballi. I'm a real estate agent here in Orange County, and today I have my new friend. I'm so happy to have gotten to know her, and I know you guys are going to enjoy getting to know her as well. But Jennifer Rice, she is broadcasting from her beautiful backyard in Kona. She's on the Big Island of Hawaii right now. We're going to be talking about Big Island, Hawaii real estate and all the things you need to know. I put together this show because I had so many clients of mine that were thinking of making a move, and people always ask me, if I was going to move, where would I go? So I started the show interviewing some other agents in other markets just to give you guys ideas on where to go. One of the coolest things about Hawaii is personally, I'm a Californian through and through. I'm not planning on leaving, but I am 110% in on buying a vacation home there. Maybe I'll retire there down the road, but for now, I'd love to get a vacation property. So if you guys are tuning in because you want to make a move, maybe the COVID has freed things up and you're working remotely now, you can head out to the islands. Or maybe you look at it from an investment standpoint, a vacation home standpoint. So we've got lots of good information for you guys today. And I'll let Jennifer introduce herself, but one of the coolest things about her is that she actually used to live here in Orange County, so she's a great resource to kind of compare back and forth. So welcome, Jennifer, to the show. Tell us about you. Give us a little background and a little introduction.
Thank you. Aloha. I'm Jennifer Rice with Corcoran Pacific Properties here on the sunny Big Island of Hawaii, on the Kona side. So that's the west side of the island, just like you all are in Orange County.
Yes.
Just on the other side of the ocean.
Yeah. So Jennifer, you used to live in Orange County. So tell us your journey. I mean, were you selling real estate here in Orange County? What made you go to Hawaii?
Yes. Estate in Orange County with Keller Williams. I had to the chess team, Keller Williams. Love those ladies. They're great team. And I was also coaching figure skating at the Ice Palace in Aliso Viejo. I was a professional figure skater for 8 years. Yeah, that part you probably didn't know about me, Danae.
No, I love it.
So I had a great Orange County life, raised my kids there in Aliso Viejo and Laguna Niguel area. And everything was fabulous. My grandparents, my connection with Kona in the first place is my grandparents moved here in 1964 and built a home here and worked back and forth between Los Angeles and Kona. And my grandmother was into sport fishing. They had a boat here. So I was very connected with the Billfish tournament and such my whole life. And so I came here a couple times a year in the summer and like Christmas time to see my grandma and grandpa. And then as time went by, I ended up, things started changing in my life in Orange County. I ended up getting a divorce and moved here with my daughter, my younger daughter, who's 11. And moved over here, met an old boyfriend from years ago that fishes with my grandma. And he actually caught me my first marlin. Yeah, the first week I was here, he caught me my first marlin, and we started dating. And so now that's who I'm married to. And we own Ihunui Sport Fishing, and I sell real estate. And so it's like the best of both worlds. And my grandma is now 102 years old, and she lives with really situation here. And I just could never leave. So.
That's amazing. So some of you know if you've tuned in on the show before, or just follow me on social media, but my sister and her husband and her 2 kids just recently moved to the Big Island. And before the show, we were talking, Jennifer and I, and they're actually essentially walking distance from each other. So they're definitely in the same neighborhood. And I have not met Jennifer in person, but I was there in Kona last week. I'll be going back again, I think in April or May. I'll be coming again. But what a great island. I'll tell you, so my experience as a kid, I went to Hawaii often in the summer. We had family friends over there. And as many times as I've been there, I feel like every time I go, I learn more and more about the island because it really is, it's called the Big Island because it really is it's the biggest of the island, but it's a big island even if it wasn't the biggest. So lots of things to do. So I'm excited to dive into the little more of the content with you. So I think one of the things people always ask when we're talking about real estate is just pricing. So can you share a little bit about your numbers?
Our numbers here, I'm looking at the market update from the end of December 2020. And the Big Island is a big island. So we have the Hilo side and the Kona side. So as an island, our single family homes are about 410,000 median home price, and for condos about 395. The single family homes are probably like a little bit higher here on the Kona side, maybe more like in the high five range. If you're comparing it to like one of the other islands, I know that Orange County, it has a huge parallel with the Big Island and Maui. Maui's a lot more expensive at $795 for single family homes and $570 for condos. So a lot of people are coming to the Big Island because of the affordability, and I think because of COVID and the lifestyles changing and needs for living, with having more space and maybe working remotely, people are choosing to come to Hawaii to make it their home now. We've seen a huge transition. My husband and I count the license plates every day when we go to Costco, and just on Ali'i Drive here, there's so many California license plates. We can't even believe it. California and Texas and Colorado, Oregon. We were seeing all these, we never see those license plates here. So it's been really interesting, the folks that are moving. We have a lot of celebrities that have moved on island in the past few months. A lot of big, actually, Facebook people bought 4 properties here last year.
Wow.
So it's an interesting trend. Also, a lot of transition between people who were born and raised in Hawaii, living in Honolulu or Oahu, which is a lot more expensive, like in the $1 million range. Oahu's like, what are they now? 2.4 million median sales price. Is just astronomical. You know, wow. They're getting priced off their own islands. So a lot of them are trying to also work remotely and raising their kids in a more wholesome atmosphere.
Yeah.
You know, it's really nice to be maybe up country in Waimea. You know, we have different climates here on the Big Island. You know, so Waimea's a lot cooler, more country. Down in Kona, it's more tropical. Waikoloa, up by like where part of your family is from, it's very tropical.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about one of your listings in particular, because as a real estate person, I'm always searching real estate, and most of the time I'm just flipping through and they're all like nice enough. But Jennifer has a listing right now that I am obsessed with. In fact, I posted on my Instagram recently. I want to buy it so bad. I think it's an awesome property, which we are going to talk about. But I think what people may not realize about the Big Island is you have this horse property area, right? Like there's some beautiful horse properties with ocean views, just like the most beautiful pastures and horses. And I want goats real bad. I want goats and chickens. Throw some horses in there. I'll be real happy. But yeah, the island is just so diverse as far as different types of properties. So I'd love if you can share more about that, because I think sometimes you haven't been to the Big Island and maybe you're familiar with Oahu is kind of like New York, right? Or Vegas. It's like a lot of high rises, and downtown it's a little intense, just palm trees and beaches. But Hawaii, you have the volcanoes, you have, the desert, you have the jungle, you have the horse property. So talk a little bit about that, just the climates and the kind of the different, I guess, areas.
Okay, so my listing is the Waikiki Ranch, the one that you love. It's on 20 acres. It's a gated community. This is interesting. My husband comes from Hawaii, 6 generations, born and raised here, from Boston, Massachusetts, that came in 1840. So family came here as missionaries, and they also owned cattle ranches. So they were very involved in cattle ranching here, which you wouldn't think of. Parker Ranch is one of the biggest cattle ranch farms here on the Big Island. Waimea and Waikiki Ranch is right next to Waimea. It's a community it's actually the only equestrian community in the state of Hawaii, which is interesting because we do have a lot of ranch properties here, but that particular gated community has polo fields and roping arena and it has a clubhouse, has all kinds of riding trails throughout the community, and like the spectacular ocean views. You're at the base of Mauna Kea, which is one of the dormant volcanoes, and right now it's snow. It's covered, the whole top of it's covered with snow. So you're at the base of Mauna Kea, and then the other side you see the whole ocean. It's just spectacular. But that's a beautiful community to live in, and every time I go up and show that property, I just am just in love with it. It's so peaceful, and just the nature, like you were talking about. It's just the horses and owls floating around. Bird watchers go up there all the time to look at the nature, and the little sheep and the pigs and the cattle. It's just magical, really.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't think you'd see that in Hawaii. I think that's probably one of the most surprising things to folks who haven't been to the Big Island before, is how the landscape is here.
Yeah, so cool. So last week when I was there, I was in, let me think, Mauna. So I'm right on the beach, basically in the lava. It's supposed to be sort of the sunny, warmer, dry zone. And I went up to Waimea. There's actually a really great butchery up there to get stuff for barbecue. And I think when we got in the car, it was 82 degrees. And my stepdad said, well, when we get up there, it's going to be 72 degrees. I'm like, but it's 10 minutes away. How could that be? And we got up there. I think ended up being like a 15-minute drive, but it wasn't just 10 degrees difference. It was 20 degrees difference, and it was 15 minutes away. And I'm in my shorts and flip flops, and I wish I had my, beanie on. That's pretty crazy. But that's like the beauty of it.
I'm always prepared. I always have a sweater in the car and an umbrella just in case, because you can get, spitty rain going on up in Waimea. With the breezes. But they do have a beautiful, one of the best farmers markets on the island on Saturdays. It's a really nice community event. Really, they have 3 major farmers markets up there. They're just spectacular.
So you have sort of this horse country big property like that. There's also the Mauna area. Maybe you can speak a little bit more about that, but that's sort of more the vacation resort, maybe second homeowners. Maybe you buy a property there if you want to put it on Airbnb, or maybe talk a little bit about the investment side of things.
Yeah, so you have different resort areas. You have the Mauna area, which is like got its own gated entrance. And then next to that, you have the Waikoloa resort area. And then a little more south of that toward Kona, you have Hualalai, which is the Four Seasons. Actually, I skipped one, sorry. For the furthest north one is Mauna Kea. So you have the Mauna Kea Beach Hotel, which used to be the original Rockefeller Hotel. That was the very first resort hotel here way, way back in the 60s.
Okay.
And then you have Mauna Lani, Waikoloa, Four Seasons, Kukio. That's another private community. A lot of movie stars live there. GoDaddy, Dell, Starbucks, to name it. They all invested in Kukio, Four Seasons areas. Mauna Lani has the new Auberge Hotel, which is spectacular. Actually, Corcoran Pacific Properties. My company, we're opening a brand new office inside the Auberge Hotel. It used to be the Mauna Lani Bay Hotel. And it's quite beautiful. And I had a staycation there for our birthdays in November. And it was just fabulous. They did a wonderful job. Beautiful hotel. And it was nice to see tourists come back too. We're noticing that tourists are coming back, and it's a great time to visit Hawaii because there's not that many people here. A lot of people aren't traveling, and the ones that are really getting a great vacation because they're kind of getting a private experience here on the islands.
Yeah. Well, I do want to tell you guys, if you do travel to Hawaii, which obviously I recommend, love it there, you do have to pass the coronavirus test before you go, 72 hours before you go. And then I guess each island has their own rule, but specifically on the Big Island, you do a second test. And I thought it was really going to be an inconvenient process and trip me up and hold me up at the airport. And they were so on top of it, just 5 minutes in and out. It was really an enjoyable process. And then it makes you, feel good to go hug on your family, and you're, COVID free and you can continue on. So it was a nice process. So if you guys are considering it, check it out. But
that's a good point.
So tell us a little bit about the investing. So do you see people buying, maybe they're not ready to move to Hawaii permanently, but maybe they want to buy a little vacation home, maybe just throw in a scenario, but maybe you live in it for the next 6 months until you get called back to the office, but then you put it on Airbnb. Is that a thing? Is it profitable? How does that work?
Yes, that is definitely a thing. I have lots of clients buy their home or their investment property 5 years or more ahead of the time they're ready to retire, because a lot of them do plan moving here eventually. That's that I see a lot, just like in myself. You know, falling in love with Hawaii as young children. You know, I was just a baby when I came here, and I always knew it was kind of my second home. It was in my heart, and I think a lot of people who come to Kona just fall in love with it, and they know that they'll move here someday. You know, but they're not ready to because of jobs, you know, logistics, which is now changing because of COVID, which is kind of nice. People are actually coming here sooner. But like in my neighborhood, a lot of people bought single family homes, rented them out for the past 5 years, and now they're all retiring and moving here permanently. And same thing with the resort condos. You could use it half-half. We have a lot of Canadian visitors that invest in condos, and they come here from our high season here is from November to April. So they will use their condo for that time, and then the rest of the time rent it out. So we see that. And then vice versa, the Californians come here in the summer. So that's the time they come because their kids are out of school, and the families come here between the June and the September time. So it's interesting. You can always tell who's here by when you go to the grocery store. Like what kind of groups of people here. Europeans come here. We have people from all over the world who visit Kona. We're home of the Ironman competition, which is in second week of October normally. And so we have folks from all over the world who come here, and so many Ironman athletes I've met that have stayed and we just moved here and said, wow, you know, we just love Kona, and they train here and they live here now. So
wow, I didn't realize that. That's a pretty awesome event.
And actually, a few doctors that we have here on the island were Ironman athletes and doctors. And one of them is my daughter's pediatrician. He ended up moving here from Colorado. We have actually a lot of doctors and nurses right now moving here. I just put a doctor into my neighborhood and 2 nurses in my neighborhood. And then at Hilo, I have another couple from California that just moved here last year and bought a house near the hospital in Hilo. So they're making this their home as well. So it's really nice to see folks moving here.
So we talked about something on the pre-show. I'd love if you can just bring it up. So we were talking about the schools. And certainly, you know, when people move to a new area, one of the big questions is always like, well, what about the schools? So am I going to have to do private schools? Are they good schools? And you had mentioned about the teachers. So can you touch on that a little bit?
Yes, I'd really love to talk about that. A lot of folks who come here see the test scores in schools, and they're not really high compared to like Orange County, where I'm from, where our test scores are very, very high. Like Irvine, I think is 99 percentile. And you know, so I was concerned about that as a parent moving here. My daughter was 11, my youngest daughter. My oldest daughter was just going to college when I moved here. And so for my 11-year-old, I checked out the private schools because my husband did go to HPA, which is a very popular private school here on this island. So I checked that out, but it's kind of far from where we live down in Kona. And then I checked out the public schools. We ended up putting her into the regular middle school, and then she went to the high school here, Kealakekei. And the first parent night, I was really impressed by meeting the teachers. I just couldn't believe how experienced these teachers are. They come from all over the world, from France, from California. They work for NASA, been big engineers working for these aerospace companies, and they come here to retire. And then they also, you know, want to work. So you're getting these teachers that are almost overqualified to be teaching. And I was so impressed. My daughter, when she her first freshman year in high school, there was these really impressionable teachers. I just, Mr. Brown, who's the head of the robotics team here on the Big Island, he started the robotics team, and my daughter told me she wanted to do coding. And I'm like, oh no, honey, you know, I'm a professional figure skater. I'm like, you want to go do dance, right? She goes, oh no, I want to be a coder. I'm like, oh no. so she gets into robotics, and she just excels to the top. You know, she got like a full ride to her college. So one of the head young men in the class got a full ride to Stanford. She has two friends who are Tahitian twins from Tahiti. They got full rides to a college in France and then in Philadelphia. They traveled with a robotics team to China, to St. Louis, to Anaheim, to San Francisco, to the outer islands. My daughter traveled more. She was almost in school. It was amazing. And so she got a great education here. So we were very pleased. Yeah, she was the big fish in the small pond.
Yeah, no, it's I think that's a competitive advantage, right? And also I think with the teachers, like you said, having the various backgrounds, what a cool opportunity.
Yeah, it was very eye-opening. So I really tried to dispel that when people come here and talk about, the schools aren't good, so that's why we don't want to put our kids here till later, or we don't want to move here till later, is because of the schools. I think it's times have really changed here. We have a more diverse community, and the teachers are fantastic. I can't say enough about them. And so we had a great experience with the schools.
Yeah, that's really good to know. And one thing I always ask on the show is just about the recreation. And I feel like this part of the show we could talk about for hours and hours. But if you can just touch a little bit on, I think sometimes it's a little more difficult question when we're talking to a realtor in Phoenix, Arizona. It's like, well, what's there to do there? It's like, well, even there's stuff to do. But so if you want to run through a laundry list of some things available, go for it. Let us know what life is here on the island.
Well, we do sport fishing. So my husband's out on a boat and people charter him. And I'm also a marlin fisherman myself. My grandma has 3 world records. So I really got into that. It's the opposite of ice skating. And I tried to find my niche when I first moved here as well, and find, since I didn't have the ice skating rink to work out at and skate, I joined the paddling team. And canoe paddling is so much fun. You can just do pickup paddle and go down to the bay and get on a canoe and go out with other women and men and learn how to paddle. And everyone's open. Everybody has the spirit, and they have open arms and teach you. And you see whales breaching, and you see mays. Who gets to do that? I'm telling you, when I first moved here, snorkeling and swimming and scuba diving. I think you and I talked about scuba diving. I got certified with my daughter, and now we scuba dive. And there's obviously surfing, stand-up paddleboarding, which is super popular, but our waters are so warm here compared to California. That's one thing. I love California, but it's cold. The ocean is cold, and you have to wear a wetsuit. Salt Creek is actually so cold, but you get in the water here, and it's like bath water. You just step right in, and it's just normal. It feels. Oh, I love it. It feels, how it is. It feels wonderful. All the water.
Actually, since we're talking about sort of the water temperature, can you touch just a little bit on the weather too? Because from my experience, kind of like it's always 85 degrees, like all day, every day, no matter what day.
Yeah, 84 to 86 is normal. Can get down to 82. Last week we had a little storm. It got down to 82, 81. But down here in Kona, it's pretty much that temperature. And then up in Waikiki, Waimea area, you can get into the 50s and 60s and maybe even to the 40s at night if you're at higher elevations. It's like Maui and Kaanapali, it's hot. And if you're up in Kula or Makawao, it's a lot cooler. But it's consistent all year round. People always call me to book fishing charters for my husband, and they're like, well, when's the best time to come? And I'm like, anytime you can. Whenever you can fly it over, it doesn't really matter. If it's June or December, it's going to be the same for the weather. And our waters here on the Kona side are flat calm all year round. So that's why we call it Lake Kona sometimes, because it's like a lake. If it's ever rough, which if a storm ever blows through, which hardly doesn't happen very often, but if it does, my husband just cancels the charters, and he's like, there's too many nice days. There's no reason to go out when there's like a little bump. We're super spoiled. Yeah, maybe 10 days out of the year you might get stormy, bumpy weather.
Yeah, that's a part of the island life. I think, is there any concerns or things we should know about as far as like hurricanes, or I think just in general being close to the ocean, there's some things that you should know when buying real estate and kind of maintenance that you wouldn't necessarily think of?
That's a really good question. Actually, the Big Island, it's really great to live on the Big Island because we have 2 giant mountains, Mauna Kea and Mauna Loa. So when the storm comes up the island chain, it hits our island first, right? Because of our high mountain ranges, it pushes the storms up the island chain to Maui and Oahu. So we haven't, knock on wood, we haven't had a hurricane, a direct hit to our side of the island. You know, so we get those hurricane warnings and things like that, and we go buy extra water or whatever at the grocery store, and the tourists are usually running around, and we're like, it's fine, it's going to be fine. But they don't understand because of the news has to tell you. But so I mean, as far as hurricanes, you know, we have the tall mountains, and that's what protects our island. You know, Maui could get directly hit. Obviously, you know what happens to Kauai.
Yeah,
it could be very dangerous in Kauai. They have a problem. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I feel like we could talk all day, and I think after the episode I'll hang up and call you right back. But before I let you go, I do want to make sure we talk about that listing. I don't get any commission if any of you buy this. I just genuinely like the home. So if you like it too, you should certainly check it out. But she's got a great horse property. You can tell them a little bit more. Tell them why I'm obsessed with it.
Well, it's on 20 acres of land in that gated community. It has a main house, which is a ranch style with a ginormous master bedroom, an amazing gourmet kitchen, views of the Kohala Mountains. You have a guest house that has 2 bedrooms. The main house has 4 bedrooms. The guest house has 2 bedrooms. I could just live in the guest house alone. It's so cute and private. And then there's a giant barn with farm equipment, 2 paddocks for horses, and a tack room, and it also has a guest quarters in the barn as well. So you could live there with your whole family, and it would just be heaven, really.
Well, and
the amenities, the polo fields and the clubhouses, and
but the price.
Oh, the price. The price is, we've just reduced the price to $2.699, $2,699,000.
So, for those of you listening from Orange County, California, I had mentioned our median home price is $955,000 right now. But if you get closer to, you know, Newport Beach, Laguna Beach, you're going to be 2.3, 2.4 million. So I think 2.7, or actually just slightly under 2.7 for 20 acres, and not just, you know, 20 acres of dirt. I mean, it's also got that beautiful main house, the guest house. It's pretty stunning. So when we hang up, I'll link to the listing in the show notes if you guys want to check it out. But also, I think one of the great things about Jennifer is that she does work kind of it all. It's kind of rare for a realtor, but you work the resort side, you work the family, you know, if you want to live next to the elementary school, you do the horse ranches, you kind of do it all. So if whatever's calling your name, I recommend you get in touch with Jennifer. She's an awesome realtor. And part of the reason I do the show is because if you do decide to move from Orange County, which I hope you don't, but if you did, then I would love to work with you on selling your home here in Orange County. So we're both here to be a resource to you, and I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Anything else that you want to mention before I let you run? I'm sure there's lots more, but
yeah, I just think I love where I live. I love to promote Hawaii. It's just if you can't move here, invest here, come visit us, and we will show you the aloha spirit. Call me. I would love to give you a tour of the island. Just as I do area tours a lot too when people come to visit, just so they can get familiar with the different areas, and then they can decide exactly, you know, what might suit them.
So cool. Well, before I let you go, if you guys are watching with us on Facebook or YouTube, you can see her phone number and website on the screen, but I'll read it in case you're listening to the podcast. It's 808-333-6977. That's her direct phone number. And you guys can reach me, 714-415-2430. There you have it. Awesome episode. Thanks for coming on the show. We'll definitely do it again. I have a feeling if we connect again in another 6 months, the prices are going to be up even more because people are just learning to work remote. And I think it's opening up the world, and Hawaii is certainly on people's radar. So,
yes. Well, thank you for having me today, Danae. It's been a pleasure. And I can't wait to see you here next month when you come over.
Yeah, next trip, I'm going to call you and we're going to meet up. All right. You guys have a good afternoon. Bye, guys.
Aloha.